Okay, here's a question. Can we use parameters for constructors? Well, yes, at the end of the day, constructors are just very dedicated, very special methods. So yeah, we can use parameters with them. So example here will be, let's say, about products. Products, and we're gonna have ID of a product, status of product, like is it obsolete or in production, and we're gonna have like one character that will be designation of storage house, warehouse, whatever the name is in English. Right. So string that will be for product status. And what we can use, let's say, in some kind of imaginary database, we can say that through string is it active or obsolete. Another thing will be ID. So that will be integer product ID. So this is just classical individual product number, nothing special. And we're gonna have character as a short way of telling in which warehouse we have that. So production warehouse, production warehouse, and that will be like storage, for example, M for Moscow or B for Berlin, right? Something like that, something easy to understand. Okay, so how we are going to construct any constructor? Well, using class name, product, in this case. And first thing will be production status. So we must have some kind of parameter name for this actual field. You can use here XYZ, but you can use something more descriptive. So that will be also string, of course, because this is the first thing we grab. And I'm gonna use just status as a name for a parameter we are going to grab. We are going to pass real value from status into here. Okay? Another thing is that integer. So integer, let's just use ID here for it. And character, I'm gonna use like for that. Nothing special. Okay. So what about how we are going to pass all these things that we need to grab from end user, let's say, to these like columns in a database, let's say? Well, we can target, we must target that production status first. So I'm just going to copy paste it down there like that, and we will get that from this status, whatever user enters, let's say, or another programmer. Another thing, production ID. Production ID, we will get it from ID. Okay. And another thing, production storage house or whatever the name is, and we will get that from this. This is just a short name for any value that must be put into here, right? So this is what our constructor will do immediately when we create some kind of object down there. That will represent like a real product. Fix formatting. Okay. So let's create one. What is the name of class? Product. Product, and let's call it a P1. We will get it when we say new and product again, but now in parentheses you're gonna have all those data that need to be pushed into, let's say, imaginary columns in some imaginary database. So to some degree this class is like a database, and if you have a little bit of experience with Access or Excel or MySQL, SQLite, you do know what I'm talking about. Anyway, if you don't know databases very well, on my channel you have a lot of playlists on databases. So product, and first thing is status that we need to type, and that thing, if we look into data type, is a string. So what we can type by some documentation, let's say, or internal rules in a company, we can say that is active. So this is a string, so double quotes. Okay, oops. Active. Another thing is ID. So see, when you hover over this new object, basically you're gonna see what you need to type in specific order: string, integer, and then character, right? So ID will be just integer, 1 2 3 4 5 6, let's say. And another thing, again, you have a explanation what you need to type, will be shortcut for some place, for some storage in, let's say, Moscow. Okay, that will be single char. I mean, chars are always single, so single quotes. And guys, that's pretty much it. So let's press F5 to see do we have any kind of problems before we use our objects. So program is running and no errors for now. That means we can operate on this P1, whatever that thing is. So let's say console dot write line. We must target that P1, and from that object, because we have all these fields populated, we're gonna grab production status first. You can have on the left side a little bit of custom report what that thing is, but for simplicity reasons I don't want to torture you with that, so we just care about raw data. Another thing is a product ID. So product ID, and you do have it in a drop down, and production storage house storage. Okay, so F5, and there you go. So whatever you put here as parameter will be pushed into all these fields, and that's the whole purpose of parameters when you are using constructors. And this is actually extremely useful, and not just in C# but also in many other languages where you're gonna use object-oriented approach. Maybe you don't see where now, but you will get there over real-world examples. So if you use, for example, PHP or Java or C++ or Python, whatever, and when you switch to C# or reverse, then the syntax is obviously different because those things are different programming languages, but object-oriented approach is pretty much usable when you know base of it in every language. So don't worry about will you be able to understand object-oriented into those other languages. Same stuff, for example, for C++. Constructors, deconstructors, you also have that. And on my website you have a bunch of C++ examples. 2 playlists actually. Okay guys, so that's pretty much it. You can play a little bit around here with objects, but I'm sure you know how to do these things. Just create those unpopulated field here, create those variables that will represent real stuff that need to be pushed into these fields, and then when you create that object, then you must absolutely populate those things, because if you don't do that and constructor is demanding to do that, then you're gonna end up into some kind of errors. Okay, so thank you for watching as always, and see you in next one. Ciao.